Hello viewers, welcome to my channel. Today I'm excited to host Zawadi, and if you followed us, you met her on the other videos that we were discussing about ADHD, and today we are going to talk about the most asked condition, autism. So without further ado, Zawadi, welcome to our channel.
Thank you.
Thanks for accepting the invite to the interview.
Thank you so much, Tess. It's always an honor and always a pleasure to be here with you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll get right into it. Let's tell us, what is autism?
So autism is a neurodevelopmental condition. Now here is the whole dynamic. For the purposes of this conversation, we look at autism as a spectrum and an umbrella kind of condition because it carries so many different symptoms, and these symptoms are very diverse across very many people and individuals. Yeah, so it's a neurodevelopmental condition. That means that it affects how the brain of a child develops over time. The symptoms of autism are usually classified in 3 categories. So that is with social reciprocity, the back and forth, like the way you're talking, then I'm talking, then if you had someone else they'd be talking like that. There's the aspect of communication, okay? So ability to realize social cues, to speak in some cases, to communicate it in gestures and things like that. And then there's restricted patterns of behavior, okay? So now with restricted patterns of behaviors, even interests, it would be that I could be interested in a particular area of interest, and I'm very restricted to that, so much so that I don't realize the other things that are occurring around. Yeah. So those are the 3 main categories, or the 3 main domains in the description of autism. Yeah.
So when you say that autism is a spectrum or a disorder, what does that mean?
So it means that autism as a disorder, there's mild, there's moderate, and then there's severe. Okay. So with mild autism, which in some books, some papers, you'll find it as high functioning autistic disorders, autistic spectrum disorders. It could be so mild that the person can talk, they can interact, they make friends, and the symptoms would only be visible when their capacities again are put in a situation whereby the demands of the environment or the demands placed on the person are higher than the capacity to which the person can handle. Then there's moderate autism. So here the person may have moderate types of symptoms. And then there's the more severe, where maybe even the child is not talking, maybe they're not even communicating in a sense.
Yeah.
Okay. And when I say in a sense, it's because this child will find a way of communicating their needs, but you may not be fully cognizant of what they're saying. Yeah. Now, when I talk of it being a spectrum or an umbrella type of condition, it's because traditionally there was types of autism.
Yeah.
And that would be like Rett's disorder, Asperger's, pervasive developmental disorder. So in the current DSM, which is the Diagnostic Statistical Manual for Mental Disorders, which is the one that we use to pretty much give a diagnosis towards a mental condition, they've put it all together. Okay, so it's all been put together. The Asperger's has been put all together with other autistic conditions. Yeah.
Okay, so now they've been put together to be categorized in high functioning, moderate.
Exactly.
All right.
Yeah.
So how can one let's start by how is it diagnosed?
Okay, so with the diagnosis again, there's no, lab tests or MRI to check it out and see. However, some research, sorry, some research indicates difference in brain anatomy, difference in brain functionality. So there is research to that effect, but it's not clear-cut science per se. What is used generally is a very rigorous interview of sorts, and then there's also the diagnostic tools that clinicians will apply to check and see for developmental milestones and things to that effect. So far, how the whole diagnosis happens is, first of all, you'll be asked, it's very, very important. This is just, a footnote. It's very important to take your child for well baby clinic, because there you can track the development of the child as they continue to grow. So, part of the interview will ask you whether the child was able to experience separation anxiety at around 7, 8, 9 months. When you have to play hide and seek so that you can leave and go to work. Did they babble towards you? Did you guys have a back and forth? At some point they keep eye contact with you, their caregivers? Were they able to continuously, now more especially now into 12 months, that mama, dada, one word kind of communication, them pointing out what they want, showing you what they want, how they play with their toys. When you buy your baby, say, a vehicle, do they play with it, just try and drive it back and forth, or did you just play with the wheels? Very restricted and repetitive things. How do they communicate their emotional concerns? Are they able to self-soothe? Do they have meltdowns? Do they have outbursts? How do they calm themselves down? The way kids rock themselves and go like na 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 na, and then they self-soothe and sleep. Does your child do that, or do they flap their arms, bang their heads, stuff like that? And this will be cutting across in the developmental milestones from around month 7 thereabouts. Around 7 months you can start to see early signs. But clear-cut diagnosis will be made when the child is around 2 years, because by then it's anticipated that they'll be able to talk and do a few things for themselves.
So there's this fact, I don't know if it's a fact, that boys tend to be born with autism more than girls. Why is it true, and why is it the case?
Wow, okay, that's a very good question now, Tess. You see, when it comes to that particular question, there are many, many ways of explaining that phenomenon. It is a psychological phenomenon. It says that boys are 4 times likely to be diagnosed than a girl. And it is a scientific debate. That's why I'm calling it a phenomenon. One thing is that there is some studies that indicate that girls may be underdiagnosed. And this is because especially of how a baby girl is socialized and how they're brought up. Sometimes it's because of how the symptoms manifest. So with a girl, they easily mimic, and there's a word I'm looking for. They tend to follow in, follow in the role that is put across for them, especially with moderate and mild autism. So this girl is likely to be glossed over in the diagnosis and be missed. But then for a boy, boys tend to have more visible symptoms. So they'd be a little bit more aggressive, a little bit more hyperactive, because autism does come with levels of hyperactivity and levels of hypersensitivity or hyposensitivity. Now there's that angle of the story, and then there's the other angle of the story that goes that females tend to have protective features that make it a little less severe, or make incidences of autism much less frequently for a girl than for a boy. Now, also bearing in mind that there is all of these other permutations of hormones and how the brain develops and grows while the child is in the uterus. So all of those factors, when you put them into play, may explain why boys will be more diagnosed with autism as opposed to girls, but it is a scientific debate. Yeah.
Okay. So when you say that the girls will have some protective features that can lessen, what are these protective features?
You see, when it comes to matters genetics, though I am not a big expert on that area, matters genetics and just neurodevelopmental, development, in a sense, how the fetus develops in the uterus of the mother. It's a scientific fact that girls sometimes may have less malformations than boys because of these protective features, as they put it. Now, as to how that exact science occurs, I may not be able to give proper guidelines to, but it is a scientific fact.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. So, are there any predisposing factors or causes that can lead to someone being born with autism? Yeah.
Yes, they are. So when it comes to autism, as with many other neurodevelopmental conditions, first and foremost is what happens when the baby is in the uterus. So if the mother is exposed to tetragens, so this would be chemical products like lead, pesticides, pollutants, that may predispose the baby to neurodevelopmental conditions. Also, if the mother experiences significant emotional distress, that can result in autism. Some diseases, maybe cerebral malaria, things that would be extremely distressful to the mother, that may result in development of autism. Also, there is a bit of genetic predisposition, especially amongst twin studies. They indicate that when one twin has autism, then it's very likely that the other twin is going to have autism or is going to have a hereditary trait. So this twin who may not have autism may give birth to a child who is autistic. Yeah.
Okay. And how does having autism affect the learning of a child?